not work the way you think it does. Nothing is what you think it is. And there are so many deeper and far better understandings of the way the world, the earth, government, commerce, religion, the whole human society on the earth works totally different than you think it does. And this is why people are not able to do anything about the bad situation that the world is sinking into, and is sinking quickly into a dark place. And the reason why is because the people of the earth, not just of my own country, the people of my own country, but the people of the world have no way of doing anything. They have no power to make anything happen. So the problem being, and the reason why America in particular has no power, we can cry and complain and we feel that we're free because we can go out on television and rant and rave in the streets with signs and talk about how how bad the system is, but there's nothing we can do about it. And the reason why is because knowledge is power. And without the knowledge of how things actually in point of fact work, then you're never going to be able to change or do anything to make it better. And I've said a couple of times before, if you own a Rolls Royce, but if you're out in the desert and it stops running, your air conditioning stops running and you're not going anywhere. Well, if you're not a Rolls Royce mechanic, then you're going to need help because you don't know how anything works. Well, that's the way America is today. The American people, along with probably the rest of the world, is equally as smart enough to know that the whole world is in trouble, the whole earth. But nobody seems to know where it's coming from. It's like the old, I remember a politician many years ago saying the situation in the world today is like a stereo when it first came out. I mean, it's all around you, but nobody knows where it's coming from. So that's the reason why I have been doing what I have for the past 56 years, personally trying to talk to people about how much they don't know and trying to point the way to where the information is, so that for the first time, Americans, especially my fellow Americans, can understand how America works. And nothing is more further from the truth than how you think the world works. And so I've been trying to find the best guests that are far better at presenting this kind of deep and important material. And I've had many dear friends who are experts on this subject. And I will for sure be having more experts on this general subject of the occult or hidden way the world really works. But tonight I wanted to especially thank my guest for being with me, because an incredible mind that he has and the way that he is able to explain deep and dark things. And I've often said that the world works on smoke and mirrors. Well, what does that mean, smoke and mirrors? Well, it just means that nothing is what you think it is. And this is why you keep butting your head up against the wall or a mirror, because you keep thinking you know what you're doing when you don't know what you're doing. So my guest tonight is named Kurtis. And I've talked with Kurtis before. I actually had him on the show before, but I'm going to have him on more now, because his kind of information is, I feel, very important. I don't know anywhere near what he does, but I know enough to know the subject matter is important. And I've been looking at it and talking to experts for many years about this general subject of the occult or arcane, occult, hidden way the world really works. And so with that introduction, just realize I'm not the authority on anything, but I do have some really wonderful friends who are rather, highly intelligent on the things which I see, but they can explain better than me. I'm not the authority. But with all of that said, I hope Kurtis is with us. Are you there? Are you there, Kurtis?
Can you hear me okay, Jordan?
Yes, I can hear you just fine.
All right.
Okay, so as I've said before, I understand the occult, and the word occult simply means hidden. So I understand the hidden or the occult world of finance. I've been talking about it for many years. I know about the dark underpinnings of Western civilization, how government really works, how organized crime actually operates, and religion especially is my subject that I have always loved to talk about. But tonight I want to talk about the hidden or the arcane hidden world of money and finance, banking, and how money works and what it is. What are we talking about? What makes paper in your wallet important? What makes it important and valuable? I don't know. It's just paper. So that's why I've asked Kurtis to come on and explain to my audience so I can understand too, something about the hidden system of finance and the world that we live in. So I don't know if that's enough of an introduction. I don't know if that's enough of an introduction, but that's the best I can do.
Well, now I'm nervous.
Okay.
How in the world can I follow that? By the way, you've been at this as long as I've had the Spirit of God in me. I mean, 56 years. I took my first breath 56 years ago, and that was it. I mean, so you've been at it as long as I've been here.
Yeah, well, I started off in 1959. Just talking a little group discussions and mom and pop bookstores and little private meetings like that, talking about the government and the Federal Reserve and the Knights Templars and the Illuminati and the secret societies and where religions have come from, because I've always been interested in that kind of thing. But it wasn't until about the 80s, mid-80s, that I became aware of the concept of the difference between the United States of America, the Republic, and a corporation called the United States Incorporated, which is a company. And then from there, that opened up the doors, I'm saying in the mid-80s, that opened up the doors to, well, what is the value of money? And who prints the money? And where, what is really going on the earth today? And then I heard you, and I was blown away, so I'll let you try. Maybe I'll let you try and go from here. Yeah.
Well, first of all, I, like you, I don't feel like I'm an authority on anything, but I'm here to entertain myself most of the time.
Yeah, me
because
too.
The stuff is so crazy that, I mean, the first 4 or 5 years into it, it was toxic as heck. But once I broke through a little bit of it and I started seeing the light of truth, then it didn't hurt so bad. But you know what's funny is, I mean, tonight and maybe in the future we're going to be talking about money, but money, I mean, as we believe it to be, as we think it is. And ultimately it comes back to probably an area where you're pretty strong. But I think money at this point on the entire planet is more, we should just call it what it is. We're using a certificate of indulgence that is granted by the Roman Catholic Church. Ultimately, that's what it comes down to. It's a certificate of indulgence. But I think that you just made a comment. I mean, I'm going to try to start extremely superficial on the very surface so I can try to gather up as many people as possible before I get into the really strange stuff that I've discovered over the years that ties money back basically to our soul.
Yes.
So
yes.
I'll start really.
That is exactly what I'm talking about. That's exactly what I'm talking about. Is the arcane and the dark secrets of money. And I'm sorry to interrupt you, but that's what I wanted to hear about.
Yeah, because I mean it's like It's like a path. I got to break through the top. I got to let people know where it is first. You said something just a minute ago. You know, the United States versus the Republic and whatever. I want to start there just because I want people to understand a very simple concept. If you can understand this concept, especially with as much admiralty law as you've been into or commerce over the years, let's break this down into three very simple ideas. There's subdivisions within each one of these, but I want to just at least name the three. So the United States. The United States is what I call a maritime republic, or it's pure commerce. It's a business. It's an organization, a trade union per se. And so the United States by itself it's just a business. That's all it is. And whether it's overseeing a larger business, I don't know, but I'm going to call the United States a business. The United States of America is a country. It's a republic. And people have to recognize the fact that this is it's what they perceive it to be. It's a government with living people involved and things like that. By the way, it still exists. It hasn't gone anywhere like a lot of people believe it has. It's still there. But then there's the third thing that most people are really confused about, and that's America. America is a whole different ballgame. America is a geography. America is North America, South America, and Central America. America is called the Americas. It's plural. It's all of it. And it was actually claimed through what's called the doctrine of discovery by the Roman Catholic Church back in the 1400s. So the doctrine of discovery is about Christianity. They're laying claim through Christianity to everything that's happened in Americas. So in the Americas, canon law rules in the Americas. Canon law rules. So, and basically the doctrine of discovery says that Spain and I believe it was Portugal basically rule over the Americas. So that being said, what's the difference between America and the United States of America? Well, North America has a specific republic within the geography of North America, not counting Canada. So the republic it includes like Illinois, Wisconsin, Indiana. That's the republic or the United States of America. Because America by itself is identifying basically Catholic property. America by itself. So the United States of America is identifying something completely different. And then, of course, the United States is within that, it's a private business that's operating completely separate. So to me, the United States is a business. The United States of America is a government or a country. And America is, well, it's Roman Catholic.
No doubt about that.
That's how I like to look at it. So
yeah.
Let's start with, you said money. I'm going to go with money all by itself first. And I'm going to use Webster's and I'm going to use Black's Law Dictionary for money, the definition of money. So let's do money right off the bat. This is out of Merriam-Webster, and I took it Merriam-Webster online. And here's what it says. Money. Something generally accepted as a medium of exchange, a measure of value or means of payment, such as officially coined or stamped metal currency, newly minted money. B, money of account. Paper money, handed paper money. 2, wealth reckoned in terms of money. 3, a form or denomination of coin or paper money. 4, the first, second, or third place winners, in other words, in the money, that type of thing. 5, persons or interests possessing or controlling, and the rest is a position of wealth or, okay. Ultimately, it's a medium of exchange. That's what money is supposed to be. A medium of exchange. Something where, and I like to use a lot of examples. So here's the way I like to describe my idea of money. It has to be a value for value exchange, meaning we're all born equal. We all have the value of 1. In other words, you, Jordan, equal 1, and I, Kurt, equal 1. And whatever we produce, that's our 1. That's our 1. It doesn't matter what it is. You have a value of 1 and I have a value of 1. If I want what you produce and you want what I produce, we exchange the 1. So you have my 1 and I have your 1. And we're both happy. In other words, there's no, I don't know, what's the word? There's no compromise. We don't compromise on that. You get all of my one and I get all of your one, and we're completely satisfied with that exchange. That's a one-to-one exchange. Compromise would mean that, let's say, you got 99% of what you wanted, and I got 100%. Well, I'm okay, but you still have an outstanding 1% where you're kind of unsatisfied, meaning that that's an open door. Meaning it's somebody that can offer you that last 1% could drive a wedge between your agreement with me, because they're going to offer you the full 100% you're looking for. I think of it this way, a compromise. Compromising in a marriage. I mean, if I say that my wife is 85% of what I'm looking for in a woman, that's not a very good position, is it? Because there's 15% out there that if I can find that last 15% in somebody else, I'm going to jump ship. I'm going to go someplace else. And so I don't believe in compromise. I believe that when you make an agreement, you're agreeing to that one-to-one exchange. Here's the problem with the system as it is right now, that I see it. It's an energy-based system. Whatever you produce through your ability to produce your energy, the fact that you're alive, the fact that your heart's beating, that energy exchange, your production with what you can do with your energy is traded for my production, what I can do with my energy. That's all it is. And what they've done is they've created a system to where there's a man in the middle, the middleman, who doesn't offer any energy at all to the exchange. He doesn't offer anything, but he takes out. So if you and I make an agreement, we're pretty good if it's just you and I, but if a third party comes in and says, listen, I put you two guys together, so I'm going to extract 50% of the agreement. Well, then neither one of us actually have a true agreement because somebody came in and took or extracted energy. The easiest way for me to kind of explain this is, the Federal Reserve is the middleman. So here's a good picture in my head. Let's just say that you and I are neighbors. You're a potato farmer, and I'm a laborer. I dig holes for a living. So you ask me, you say, Kurt, can you come over today and dig a hole for me? And I say, absolutely. You know what I need in exchange of that labor, that hole, is I need a bushel of potatoes. So whatever the requirement of energy for you to create that bushel of potatoes, that's all I'm asking for the exchange of my energy to dig the hole. So when I finish the hole or manifest the hole, you got what you want, and then you hand me the bushel of potatoes. And now that's a one-to-one exchange. We're good. There's no debt. What they've done is they've created a medium of exchange because we can't do that. On a large scale, the way the world works, we can't exchange things that way. That's why a true barter system can't work on a global scale. My wife and I have, Amazon businesses or eBay businesses and have since about 2005. And there's no way that I can dig a hole in, Ireland. I can't go dig a hole in Ireland and exchange that energy for somebody in Ireland for what they have to offer me. So there's a medium of exchange called a Federal Reserve note that is being used in this world. Now, this is what's weird about it. That medium of exchange, there's no energy to it. It's dead. So when somebody comes in, when let's say the Federal Reserve is they're taking, let's say, extracting 50% for the use of their reserve note. The problem with that is that if you and I are making a one-to-one exchange, and let's use a dollar value for our labor. I'll dig the hole for $50, which would normally buy me a bushel of potatoes. So the $50 you offer me allows me to get those potatoes. So it's still a one-to-one exchange. We just call it $50 now. The problem is that the $50 doesn't have a full $50 value if somebody's extracting 50% of the energy of the $50. That means that if you give me $50 for me manifesting a hole in your backyard, if you give me $50, that's $50 because the Federal Reserve middleman took out his 50% share. The $50 you gave me now is only worth $25 in purchasing power. I lost 50% of my end of the deal because the Federal Reserve extracted its energy from that medium of exchange. So what you really have to give me, if we're agreeing to a $50 bushel of potatoes, you're going to have to give me $100 of Federal Reserve notes, because the Federal Reserve is going to extract their 50%, which brings it down to $50 in purchasing power, and I can still get the bushel of potatoes. See, that's what the middleman does. The middleman extracts the energy. They've done nothing. They've put in nothing, but they're extracting out a source of energy. So we can never actually make payments. We can never actually pay each other the way it's designed. If there was no middleman, if there was no usury, which is what it's really called, they call it inflation, but it's ultimately just usury. If there was no usury, then everything that's ever produced would be an asset instead of a liability. One more example. I'm going to try to simplify this. It seems kind of difficult right now, but I'm going to use another example. I live in Rockford, Illinois. If the people of Rockford, Illinois decided to build a bridge, and they floated a bond or did whatever they had to do to finance that bridge, if there was no middleman when that bridge was built, the bridge would be an asset to the community. But because there's a middleman that has already extracted his energy, the bridge is never an asset. It's always a liability. In other words, it never truly gets paid for. Somebody is always owed money on that bridge. So the community doesn't have an asset. It has a liability. And that's kind of how everything is working around the world, is that because there's a middleman extracting energy from us, from each and every one of us, and I'll get to that later, but because of that, the system is actually, well, it's dying. Kind of like what you were talking about earlier. It's dying. We're not going in a good place. And there's no way to recover. There's no way to recover. We can't recover. The system has to be terminated in order for us to be okay again. So, anyway, the money, a medium of exchange is all it is. But I want to go to Black's Law right now and talk about, and use their definition real quick. So I just used Merriam-Webster. It just says something generally accepted as a medium of exchange. That's Merriam-Webster. Here's Black's Law. Black's Law says money in usual and ordinary acceptation means coin and paper currency used as circulating medium of exchange. There it is, medium of exchange, and does not. Here it goes. This is Black's Law definition of money. It says, does not embrace notes, bonds, evidences of debt, or other personal or real estate. It says legal tender, near money, script, wampum, a medium of exchange authorized or adopted by a domestic or foreign government as part of its currency. But it says money it does not embrace notes, bonds, evidences of debt, or other personal or real estate. So a Federal Reserve note is not considered money. Right off the bat. It's a note.
I was going to say that it's not money, because even on the face of the dollar bill, it says this, how does it say it? That this is, I'm trying to remember how it says it, but basically what is on the dollar bill, it says this is to be used to represent money. This is not a dollar, but this is representing something. So it's not really money. It's just a paper representing something.
Yeah, and ultimately, you don't have to go too far back to find out where the money went, and that's probably a good place to go, because again, money, it's just a medium of exchange that everybody believes or has faith in. Hence the full faith and credit idea. But you have to have the faith. I have to believe that when you gave me that $50 for me to dig the hole in your yard, I have to believe that the $50 will buy my bushel of potatoes. I have to believe it will. But it doesn't anymore because of that middleman. And that's the problem, is that when we lose faith in that system will collapse. All by that, it will collapse. Okay.
Let me throw this in too. I think this is going right along with what you're saying, and I think it will help the audience too. Suppose and people have heard me say this before, but maybe some haven't. Suppose I want my office painted, and you are a painting contractor. So you come and check the job and see what's required, and you give me a price to paint my office of $100, say, and I accept. We're talking about commerce and business. And then you come and paint my office, and when you're through, you turn around, and what do? As a contractor, you hand me a bill, and the bill is for $100. Well, you just handed me a bill for $100. I reach into my wallet, and I pull out a $100 bill and hand it to you. So now you're happy because I paid you. No, I didn't pay you. I gave you a $100 bill. Why? Because you gave me a $100 bill. So I didn't pay you anything. I discharged the debt. I didn't pay the bill. So that's why you don't owe anything. You don't own anything. You don't own your home. You don't own your car. You don't own your boat. You don't own your plane. You don't own nothing, period. Why? Because you never paid for it. You discharged the debt, but you didn't pay the bill. So if you had given me a bill for $20, I give you a $20 bill. If you give me a bill for $100, I'll give you a $100 bill. So the bottom line is, I didn't pay you anything. I discharged the debt. Now you owe me $100, and I owe you $100, so we're even. No, we're even. Neither one of us got anything, but you did the work. You know.
You got a painted office.
Yeah, I got a painted office. And you got something you think is worth $100, and go out and try and buy something, and you find it's only worth about 10. So, but that's the way it works, you know. So I'm just saying that when you are giving people Federal Reserve notes, you're not giving them money. You are discharging a debt. Like if you walk across a carpet and touch a piece of steel, you get a charge. Well, that's what you do when you walk into Sears and you buy some clothes. You're going to get charged, and they expect you to pay the charge, and so it's a bill. And so it's just words and terms that are that we come to accept every day, and never really think about the implications of what we're doing. So I just wanted to throw that in.
No, I see. That's the thing is. We hear these words all the time. I mean, you end up in court, and there's a charge.
Yeah.
But and we're going to get into that because I've discovered some things recently that by the time we're done with this stuff, all the admiralty stuff, all that stuff is going to make sense. And by the way, it's really not scary. It's really and it comes down to one singular moment in your life. It really does. And that's when it goes really crazy is when by the time people hear this stuff, they're going to go, wow, man, I mean, does Jordan really talk to that guy?
Yeah.
It's going to go really nutty, but because it's going to be the foundation of everything. But again, about that charge, about the idea of the charge, it's because everything, we do, even the word do, to do something, it implies real-time action. Right now, you can't do something then. You know what I mean? You're doing it now. So in other words, everything happens in the present moment. And this is another hard concept for people. Everything we do in our entire life, it only happens now. We always are doing now. We can't do it yesterday, and we can't do it tomorrow. When the moment comes, we're doing it in that moment. So everything is in the present moment. And the word present also means grace. And the whole idea of the Christ, or the concept of the Christ, or the I am, also implies presence, meaning right now. So unless you have life in you, unless you're alive in this very moment, you can't do anything. Everything, all the energy that is provided for the system as what they use, the term they use is creditor. So all the energy is in the present moment. The creditor exists in life in the present moment. That's the creditor. That's the one that actually does the very thing that creates the charge. It's creating the charge. When I dig the hole in your yard, I'm doing it right now. And when I do it right now, until you pay me, there is a charge, a positive charge. My energy went into that hole. And in order for me to get back to equilibrium, I have to have that energy discharged. You have to pay me. In order for me to get back to equilibrium, I've just given you my energy. I need an equal exchange back to me so I get back to equilibrium. So because right now I'm in the negative. I gave you this and I'm in the negative. And so in order, it doesn't matter what the medium is at this point. A bushel of potatoes is fine. You know, but that's the whole idea. You got to give me something. There has to be a value for value exchange, and that's what people don't understand. When I hear the word creditor and debtor, I want to poop my pants because the creditor, the energy source is only in the present moment. We always only do things right now in the present. Now here's what's weird. The present moment is where all energy, where all things are made, where everything happens. That's the present. That's the grace of God. That's the Christ. That's I am. Not I will be or I was. It's I am. I am implies the present moment. So the creditor is the Christ. That's the creditor. That's the one that pays all the bill. You know what I mean? It pays everything because that's the only place things can actually happen, in the present moment. In 1582, what did Pope Gregory do? He created another timeline, the Gregorian calendar. He created another position, another timeline that the Roman Catholic Church claims as their own, the Anno Domini calendar. And where does and you know the stars better than most. Where does the Anno Domini fit into the Julian calendar? 13 days behind it right now.
Yep.
13 days behind. So if I lay claim to a character born to the Anno Domini Gregorian calendar of Pope Gregory of 1582, I'm claiming a position 13 days behind the present moment of the Julian calendar. The Julian calendar. So look how weird that is. If the Julian calendar identifies the present day, the present moment in real time, where the creditor exists, then who the hell is 13 days in the past? Who's coming up behind you 13 days later but the debtor? In other words, if Kurtis Richard Kallenbach, the birth certificated person, born to the Anno Domini Gregorian calendar 13 days after the present moment, if Kurtis Richard Kallenbach lays claim to the hole that was dug in your yard, did he dig the hole? Hell no. I dug the hole. Kurtis Richard Kallenbach is 13 days behind me claiming my work. So he's actually being extended credit by 13 days. He's being extended my energy for 13 days. Because I dig it right now, but 13 days from now, he's coming behind me 13 days in the Gregorian calendar. He's behind me 13 days taking my credit. Think about this. It's Wimpy saying, I'll gladly pay you Tuesday for a hamburger today. This is the weirdest thing, is people have no idea that this split personality, these two positions, these two different calendar positions, the real-time, real-moment Julian calendar versus the calendar that's 13 days behind. There's a 13-day differential right now. And that's where all the interest lies. The interest is between the present moment where the Christ actually does the work, the I am does the work, the energy actually creates the energy, puts the energy in, and the character 13 days behind claiming that position. That's a note of debt. The guy in the behind, Kurtis Richard Kallenbach, that birth certificated person owes the I am in the present owes him. There's your differential right there. The present moment generates the charge, and the guy behind is the one that has to discharge it, or vice versa, I should say.
Mm-hmm.
Because the credit, think about it. I get a 13-day extension of credit. I'm claiming the whole right now, 13 days. You see what I'm getting at? I'm actually getting paid for the whole 13 days in advance. Remember, this is weird. This is a tough concept, but the present is the future to the past. The present is the future to the past. So right now is the future to 13 days from now.
Well, I remember coming across that more than one time, that the Catholic Church was changing dates, and during the Middle Ages, rewriting the calendar, and there was and I never understood why they were changing the dates and calendar. But what you were saying brings up another interesting point, that your body is a biological battery. If it wasn't for electricity, you couldn't move. So it's biological electricity, but electricity nonetheless. And so you're a biological battery. And then if someone's going to charge you, then if you can't deal with that charge, then they will put you into a cell. And and so that's what a battery is. So you put the energy into a cell, so you're going to jail. And but
that's exactly right. But look, if I do something in advance, I mean, if I get on a bicycle that's attached to a generator that's funneling energy into a battery, in other words, for future use, I mean, I could sit on a bike and pedal that thing and charge up that battery. So the energy from me, the biological being pedaling, created the energy that's in that battery, that's in storage in the battery for future use. And that's what I am. That's what the Christ is. See, the present moment is me doing the work, digging the hole in your yard right now. The funny thing is the Roman Catholic Gregorian Anno Domini character, 13 days behind me, is taking credit for that energy right now in his world, 13 days in advance. That's a loan. I mean, he's in debt to me for 13 days of my energy. But it's me. So I'm both the creditor and I'm the debtor through their character. I'm both. I'm both positions. I am the present, and Kurtis Richard Kallenbach is 13 days behind me.
Yeah, I get the general gist of it. But the thing that stands out in my mind is I know that the Catholic Church did change the calendar, and there was all kinds of arcane or occult or hidden significance to the banking world going on, in the Vatican. Because remember, I'm saying this to everyone, remember the Vatican has dominated Europe for over 2,000 years. 1,600 years the Vatican has dominated Europe. What I wanted to say was that Rome has dominated Europe for about 2,300 years, starting with the Caesars of Rome, and then later about 1,600 years from backwards was the Vatican dominating Europe, and so therefore Rome is still dominating Europe. Now it's the Holy Father. Well, it's the same thing as the Caesars of Rome. But if you think about how Rome has dominated Europe for 2,300 years, and then for the past 1,600 years it's continued to dominate Europe, it's called the Vatican, which means that the Vatican and Rome has dominated Europe for 2,300 years. But what you don't think about is that Europe itself has dominated the planet for 2,300 years. And so all roads lead to Rome, period.
Absolutely. And what is it that we're talking about money, but since it's only a medium of exchange, what is it ultimately that they're after? They're after the labor, because the labor is the product. I mean, the energy of each and every one of us, whether it's your intellect, your product, the things, the articles, the things you put out, the knowledge you put out, that's a product of your brain, which is energy, and you put that product out, and that's through your labor. It's intellectual, but it's still labor. And that's what they're capturing through the medium of exchange, is the energy. It doesn't matter whether it's me digging a hole or you putting out a book. It's the same damn thing. And so they're capturing the labor or the energy or the productivity of man through a very simple mechanism. It really is, and it's our belief. It's our belief, and it's going to come down to something so horrifying. Ultimately, it's going to come down to the concept of believing in salvation, and I'll get into that too. By the time we're all done with this, because salvage, the concept of salvage, i.e., admiralty, a ship, a shipwreck, and salvation are one and the same thing. So when admiralty is the law of salvage, and of course salvation is the same darn thing. So we're gonna get into that, but I just want to be clear that the margin between the real here and now. Again, remember the word present and grace are the same thing. And I'm not a religious guy, and by the way, I'm also not a patriot. Because that's the separation of church and state. And you can't exist with the separation of church and state, because the state is the father and the church is the mother, and you can't divide those two because you're a product of both. You have to have both, the divine masculine and the divine feminine, and your mother's DNA and your father's DNA in order to exist. So you cannot separate church and state, which is what they've done on paper. But again, back to this, this is such a simple idea. I have a tendency to make things really difficult.
Well, I had a rabbi not too many years ago make that point to me that it says in the scriptures, to honor your father and your mother, and he said your father is government and your mother is the church and religion. That's the implications of the scripture, to honor your father and your mother, meaning the one that gave you a presence on the earth is government, and not the one that created you, but the one that gave you a position on earth is your father, and the one that nurtures you with that position is the church and religion, your theology. So your mother and your father is the government and the church. And so, like you said, you can't divide them because they're it's mother and father.
The Summa Theologica, the Roman Catholic Church doctrine, the stuff they use in seminary, Saint Thomas Aquinas. I believe that, and if people want to go to this, I've been at it long enough to remember the page number. It's page 4,995, the Summa Theologica. They actually describe what mom and dad bring to your life. Father brings form or status, standing, or position, your societal position.
Of course.
And mother brings substance, which is the material or the matter. So dad is subject, mom is matter, subject matter. So the combination of father and mother together are called subject matter, which is the res, or the existence of each and every one of us. But that's right out of church doctrine, and they describe the mother, all the products from mother's womb, and of course father gets status or standing. That's why what you just said about the rabbi saying honor thy father and mother. What's interesting about that is recently, the concept of standing. People said, I've been trying to change my status or standing for a while. You don't have to. What you have to understand is that you need to bring those two pieces together. You need to bring those two pieces, father and mother, back together, because when you do that, it's called good standing. And good standing also has the same legal definition as honor. So when you have good standing, you're in honor. And people don't realize it, but good standing is the father's side attached to the mother's side. Now you're in honor with both mom and dad, but you need to not leave one of those out. Patriot means father, and of course the mother side or the matrix is pure mother. You can't have one or the other. You can't choose one or the other. That's separation. That's separation.
You're right. Yeah.
But and again, back to the concept of money. These guys have known the energy system since the beginning. They don't care what you call it. They don't care what denomination. They don't care about any of that. All they care about is what you believe and how they can get you to believe it, to give up your labor. To give up your labor so they can get produced what they want. And it's a very simple thing for them, because all they have to do is make sure that we have great entertainment and we have,
plenty of
food.
alcohol.
Food.
That's why we have liquor stores on every corner in every city. Every corner has a liquor store, and it's cram filled with all kinds of alcohol and liquor and cigarettes and cigars. But it's it's pretty much on every damn corner. Why? Because we want to make sure that the people are drugged. And if they're angry and upset and they're frustrated, they can always have a couple of drinks and forget it and go watch basketball. And so I've always noticed that. And Dick Gregory, my dear friend Dick Gregory, once said, everything is changing prices. I mean, things that cost you 10 cents many years ago cost you $2 today, except in alcohol. Alcohol is still just about the same price it always was. It hasn't gone up that much in price at all. It's pretty easy to get, even if you are, a derelict or sleeping in an alley, you can always bum a few dollars off of somebody and get a bottle. So alcohol is like Joe Kennedy, Joe Kennedy, the great merchant, the Kennedy father. He said alcohol was made to be sold, not consumed. And I thought, well, that's pretty interesting from a guy who was big in the liquor industry. He said alcohol was made to be sold, make money off of it. You don't drink that stuff. And so when I look at the way the world works, it's the same thing. Nothing is what you think it is. And when you start breaking down words and terms and like I always say, you have to go to court. Why do you go to court? Well, you play tennis on a court. How do you play tennis on a court? You play with a racket. And so, and then you find out, no, the whole thing is a racket. And then you begin to see how, what is a bank? You have to put money in a bank. Where do you find a bank? A bank's on both sides of a river. It's called a river bank. And what does a river bank do? It directs the flow of the currency. And so it's just a ebb and flow of a current of your labor. And so I remember a Jesuit priest a long time ago. We were talking about this kind of thing many years ago. But anyway, this Jesuit priest just casually said to me, well, in any family, the male, the father, manufactures, and the woman is in labor creating the product. And so so you come down your mother's birth canal, implying water, and then her water breaks, and you come out as a maritime admiralty product. But I thought that was interesting,
at the top of the hour.
I thought I heard the music.
That's a perfect segue for me to start on that path. Because the most important stuff is what you just said right there. But if we can get into the nuts and bolts of that, because everything started in 1933 here, when FDR basically said, today is the day of national consecration. He actually created the holy ground, a day of national consecration, a holy nation. A nation made up entirely of holy ground. And that's you just described it, and whether you know it or not, you just described the holy ground, which is the land of your soul. And that, by the way, is where the certificate of indulgence comes into play. And again, in 1933, FDR, when he created that nation, he actually said today's the day of national consecration. I mean, is Illinois, in Indiana and Wisconsin and Arizona and everywhere out there by you, is that one nation? Hell no, it's not. So how in the world do you say today's the day of national consecration, as if only one existed? It's because he created one in that moment, and it's very specific to what they did, and it generated these certificates of indulgence or deeds to that land as of 1933. The birth certificate came out that year.
Yep.
And then I can go. That's where I want to go with this conversation.
Yeah. Well, I'm telling you, there's a lot there. And the other thing that bothers me about it is because that was in 1933.
Yeah, 33. Yeah, 33. Absolutely.
Anyway, I guess tonight is Kurtis, and we're talking about the occult or arcane subject of money and how governments work and all of the strange stuff that we Americans are never allowed to know. No one teaches it in school. There's a very good reason why they don't teach these things in school, because the teachers have no idea in the world what they're hearing. teachers have never heard any of this. And so it's always been the same thing in any tyranny. Anytime somebody wants to take over and run the plantation, you don't let the people living on the land know what you're doing. So all of this has been kept from us purposely so that we would not know how our government works, how money works, how our churches and religions and synagogues and all of the other institutions that we humans have built up to control each other. I mean, I just remember as a kid hearing the plight of man's inhumanity to man.